Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Refine and Shine podcast. I am so excited today, as I'm always excited, because I always have so many amazing guests. But this guest, I just love her so much. When I first met her, I was just drawn to her, and I watched her from afar, and I could not wait to get to know her. And I am so glad I was able to finally get the courage to say hi, introduce myself. And we have done life together. We have been in masterminds together, and she's just truly special. And I would love to say that she is one of my really, really good friends. I would call her one of my besties. But I want to introduce you guys to my friend Kim. Kim has an amazing story. Her story defies the odds. She went from losing it all, repossession, eviction notice, bankruptcy, and scrambling to feed her family alongside her sweetheart of over 30 years. Now thriving in her 50s with a top business in her industry, Kim's journey has been one of perseverance, resilience, faith, and the constant pursuit of growth. It's so amazing. She has an unwavering positive mindset and an indomitable spirit in spite of physical health and financial struggles. Kim and Rob have rebuilt their lives from the ground up while she homeschooled 5 children who all have become successful adults and launched multiple 6-figure business with her husband. She currently holds the position of president in their privately held corporation with a core vision to create high-paying jobs for veterans and their families. They aim to promote economical freedom by privately franchising their business across all 50 states. Kim and her family now live in the life that they dreamt of amongst acreage and animals on a beautiful farm in Texas with all the animals. It's so amazing. Kim's life is a testament to the power of resilience and the relentless ability to get up and get back up again. She now coaches, leads, and empowers women to learn the tools to do the same. Thank you, Kim, for being on my podcast so much.
Thanks for having me, Angelina. This is awesome. So you read a little bit about my story, and I don't think it's unique in the fact that, we lost a lot of things. Our big thing was financial, right? We had a lot of financial losses, but I do think it's a little bit unique in that we're all still together as a family. That doesn't happen very often. And so when you're going through financial struggles, that's a real big stressor, right? Um, and we learned a lot along the way. We really knew from the time that we got married, it was us and our family and our four walls. And that's really how we kind of viewed the world. And it was kind of us against the world. And that's how we set it up. So when we had, we had some real estate and we had some fun things and we had some fun toys, but we were also a little bit naive and a little bit, I'm just going to say, young and dumb, I guess. And we simply flat out overextended ourselves. And that's how we lost everything. And when we lost everything, we really found out who our friends were. And we found out that it truly is about you and your family alone. And you have to make those good decisions for you and your family, no matter what anybody else on the outside is saying. And so we really grabbed onto each other, hit our knees on the floor and prayed a lot, a lot, a lot. And we went through a massive amount of loss in a very short time. I mean, we're talking within 24 months, we lost our home. I had a traumatic birth of my fourth son. We were evicted. I mean, I was sitting there. I had just gotten home that day from the hospital, and I was nursing my son, and got a knock at the door from the sheriff telling us we were evicted. It was not a fun time, as well as I had just lost my Suburban. It had been repoed. And so I really had a decision to make, right? I had a decision to make if I was going to stay, which I wasn't going anywhere. I loved my husband, but I kept having all these outside forces saying it's better off if you divorce. And it's really crazy because debt collectors will tell you anything and they will lie to you. If you have a job of that, I'm sorry if you're a listener, but I know that y'all lie to everybody. So I'm losing my voice a little bit, but we just kind of cleaved to each other, and we decided that we were going to have to figure a way out. And we did. We decided the only way out when you are losing a lot like that, you have to grow, and you really have to grow yourself. You have to, I'm going to take a drink just a sec. You have to grow yourself, and you really have to start digging in and really deciding the kinds of decisions you're going to be making and how you're going to view the world. And we decided that we were going to view the world as a great place, and that things were going to work out for us, and that we would always have a business and we would figure it out. And so we started doing that. And the way we started doing that was we started getting into rooms with people who were doing more than we were, who were way more successful. And honestly, we felt like we had no business being in some of these rooms. And nowadays, you don't really have to even get into a physical room, because we have podcasts and we have webinars and we have all these things that you have access to so much information out there for free. It doesn't even cost you anything. And you can get all of these great tips and tools from really successful people. Back then, we had to physically be in a room with them. And so we just got around people. And because we were going into these rooms, and because we took our eyes off of ourselves, right? We did not stay bogged down in the mess we were in, because it wasn't going to change just sitting there and feeling bad for ourselves. We got out there, we started meeting people, we formed relationships, and some of those relationships that we formed 20 years ago have turned into the business that we have today. And part of that is because we grew ourselves, and we grew ourselves a couple different ways. One, getting around people that were more successful than us. You always need a coach or a mentor, right? And whether it's just somebody kind of giving you like little tidbits along the way, or somebody actually showing you step by step how to do another business or whatever, you need to get out there and meet people that are doing the things that you want to do. Their daily life is the stuff of your dreams. You have to put yourselves in those situations. So that was number one. Number two, we turned off our TV set. My kids did not grow up with TV. We had tapes. We listened to a lot of cassette tapes back then. That's what we had. And so we listened to a lot of talks. We listened to John Maxwell a lot. And there's an incredible, incredible talk he did years ago. It's called Swing the Bat, and you can still find it on YouTube. And that we listened to that over and over and over. And it's just about, you have to get out there and you have to keep going, because if you don't, you're going to get taken down. And we were not going to get taken down. We were going to come back, and we knew we were going to come back. And so we read a lot of books, and my kids read a lot of books. I read books to them like The Go-Getter. It's an incredible, incredible story about a guy who was a go-getter. And that's kind of the attitude that we grew our kids and our family with, was that we were going to overcome anything and everything that came against us. And so we did. We got around all of these successful people. We read books on personal development, right? And relationships and communication styles, things like that. We made sure that we had a lot of fun together as a family, right? Because we didn't have any money, so you had to make things fun, right? I mean, at one point we were living in like I think it was 450 or 500 square foot hotel room. It was a budget suites. It was extended stay hotel room. And we had 4 little boys and 2 giant Labradors. It was crazy. We had our dogs with us. And the best thing about that place was that it had a pool. My kids were so excited because it had a pool, and that's all they cared about. And so we made a lot of things fun, just because that's just how I am. Because if stuff around me is going to suck, I'm going to figure out a way to make it fun. And so we made a lot of games out of stuff. We did a lot of like learning games with my kids. So they were all way ahead because we were homeschooling. They were all way ahead of their friends and stuff because that's all we could do. We didn't have time to do anything else. And one of the things that we heard in these rooms was that if you take your eyes off of yourself and your problems, it's a lot easier to get through them. If your eyes are down in the exact space that you're in, you can never really dig out of that hole because all you see is that hole. And so we started serving a lot. And so we served in our churches, we served in the community, we did a lot of things like that. So my kids were raised that way. And I think that gave us a unique perspective, right? Because we got to see and meet a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. And because we did that, my kids were raised on, hey, guess what? You get up. When you're knocked down, you get back up. Guess what? Hard work is a thing and you need to learn how to work hard, but you also need to learn how to work smart, right? Because there are a lot of hard workers that can't seem to make it financially. And it's because they just haven't met the right person or they haven't had the right coach to kind of steer them and navigate that hard work. Because anything in life takes a lot of hard work. You've got to have a good work ethic, right? And so that, and then we had great attitudes. And the reason that we had great attitudes, even going through all of that, is because we constantly surrounded ourselves with positive. That's all we listened to. We did not I have no idea what was happening in the news during those years because I just didn't worry about it because people would tell me anyway, but I didn't need to watch the news, right? I didn't need to watch all the negative or do it. And we even went so far as to we raised our children that can't was a dirty word. We did not ever allow them to say can't in our home. And I know that seems extreme, but we actually said can't refers to ability, and may or may not refers to permission. And so that's how we raised our children. They were not allowed to say can't, to the point, I mean, we were pretty intense about it, to the point that my children actually grew up calling cantaloupes may not elopes. And that seems kind of goofy, but it worked. And my kids are now adults running a multi-million-dollar corporation, and they understand that you can do anything that you put your mind to, right? And whether you actually physically have that ability or not, you can find someone to help you and you can figure out a solution. Everything is figure outable. And so I think that was one of the biggest things that we did with our kids and as well as us, right? I think we need to remember that as adults too. You can do whatever you put your mind to. You just have to figure out a way. So that's kind of how we rose to where we are now. And I think the fact that we learned all those things about getting into rooms and reading books and listening to talks and just with our attitude and our faith, I think it doesn't really matter what the loss is, right? Because I've lost both my parents. Rob has lost both of his parents, and there's still an element to all of those things. There's always somebody who has gone before you that you can find, right? Success leaves clues. There's somebody that has gone before you that you can follow. And if you keep your attitude and you keep your work ethic and you surround yourself with those kinds of people, it's huge. When I talk on stages, I talk about Belgian horses a lot. And Belgian horses are huge draft horses. They're incredible athletes. They're absolutely amazing the amount that they can pull. They each can pull 12 to 14,000 pounds themselves. But when you team those horses up together, they pull well over, you would think they'd only pull about 28,000. They pull well over about 33 to 35,000 pounds when they're teamed up together. And the reason is because when you're running alongside somebody that also wants to win and that also wants to put forth 100% of their effort, each horse will try and outwork the other one. And so they give it everything they've got to do this pulling job. And I really think that that's a lot about when you surround yourself with high achievers and high performers and winners in life. And when I say winners in life, that doesn't mean that they didn't suffer losses, because everybody I know that's very successful has all suffered a loss of some kind or another. It's that they knew how to get back up. And that's the reason why you've got to get into these rooms. So, get out there, get into conferences, and that's one of the ways that you and I got close, is by doing life together and getting into these rooms, big conferences, smaller containers like masterminds, which are absolutely incredible if you can get into those, round tables, whatever you can find, just get into something like that so that you are surrounded with a lot of the same types and the same ways of thinking people that you need to be around, because they'll push you further than you can push yourself. So,
Yes, I absolutely agree. And, as you were talking, and I've heard your story numerous times, but got me into a spot that I guess because now it's just you and I,
mhm.
it's not everything else around us, but it just reminded me a little bit about my own childhood. And we didn't have cable. We were, I grew up when I was born in the projects, and we didn't have a lot in life growing up. And when my mom was going to school getting her bachelor's, she would record her cassette tapes, her notes in class, because back then you could record your notes.
Right.
And she
Mhm.
would listen them so on the car rides, we would listen to her teacher's recordings and things like that. And it gave me the drive to learn and wanting to do
Mhm.
just, listening and growing. And I was reading books. I was reading all of my sister's books. They were a little bit older, and I was reading their books, and I learned how to read at a very young age. And it just gives me back, like my daughter, she learned how to read at 3 because I was teaching my son how to read. And so she wanted to be a part of that. And it's like going back to, like, it can start at the house, it can start in the home, where you can teach your kids and your family how important it is to put yourself, to want to develop yourselves, to want to learn to read and do all of these positive things, because it gave me the drive to learn and wanting to always learn more. My daughter has that same drive because of watching her brother, where she, is just finished another certificate program and got her, her associates before she even got her diploma. And it's because, just wanting to do that drive and learning
Yeah.
and surrounding yourself with people. And I think that's so important, because a lot of times people just think, well, if my friend's playing a video game or my friend's doing this, I'll just do that. Well,
Mhm.
what do you want for yourself, and what do you want for your future and the life that you want to create? And I'm not saying that video games are wrong, because there's a lot of money you can make playing video
Yeah.
games. I'm just saying in general, like, there's a lot of stuff that we just kind of hold back on because, one, we have a fear of other people,
Sure.
or a fear of failure. And, but no matter what, anything can happen, and we can take anything away. You can have everything perfect in life, and, something, you can get in a car accident or something. Like, life is
Right.
not guaranteed. And God has never said that life will be easy, and we all will go through obstacles. It's just, how do we get ourselves out of those things? And I think you showed that by doing all of the things, one, being united as a family. And that's
Mhm.
so important. You have to be on the same level and both want it. And I think that's so,
Yeah.
so important. And then I know it wasn't always easy. And there's been a lot of things, it was, you had to go through things, grow through things, and all
Right.
the um so what would you say was your favorite book that you read while you guys were going through all of this?
Oh, gosh. Probably The Go-Getter is a huge one for me, and also Who Moved My Cheese. That
Uh-huh.
one was huge because it's a goofy little story, and it's a story about mice, but it's hilarious, and it's easy reading. It's small, but it's such a powerful story about recognizing, because I do think that when you are going through loss and when you are trying to get back up, no matter what the circumstances are, when you're trying to get back up and put your feet back upright again, you really have to recognize where you are. And so it's about recognizing the situation you're in, what's really going on, and how you're going to pivot and how you're going to get out of that situation. And so that made a huge, huge impact on me. And I still recommend it to this day. So I think that's a huge one. I think those are huge. Anything by John Maxwell, I absolutely love. absolutely love. But those are two of the biggest ones. One of the ones that I read recently that we were introduced to is The Last Arrow, by Erwin McManus, and that was amazing. That's an incredible, incredible book. So
No, like I have to read Go Getter, but Who Moved My Cheese is something when I used to in the my old job I would teach process improvement. I've taught over 600 people, and that was one of my prizes. Like if you whichever group won the most, like we had challenges that we did during the training, and that was what they would get. They would get whoever won, that we call them little bucks that we gave them. Like every time they did something right, they'd get $1 or something, like fake dollars. And
yeah,
then won the most got the Who Moved My Cheese as a book.
that's
And
awesome. I love that.
because I think it's something like you said, because it's about like going in, looking at yourself and all the things, and it's a really easy read, and it was something that they could read in like, short read.
Yeah.
Um, I love that. I think books are so powerful.
Mhm.
And the thing about it though is once you're done reading the book, you got to take some action too, and take some
Yes.
things done.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to apply it.
So, with all of the things going through that you guys went through, and like, you say you went through the eviction and all these things, your faith though will also remain strong. You guys prayed and all of those things. Could you tell me a little bit about how you got into the business that you have today?
Sure. So, probably about 20 years ago or so, we were in a room and we met a gentleman who was in the commercial water industry. And when we first met him, we didn't really see the business side of it. We saw that you could sell a product, right? And you could make a one-time sale. That's kind of how we saw it at first. And so we kind of played around with that a little bit. We would go and sell a cooler here to raise some funds for something or whatever, to try and feed our kids or whatever it was, but we didn't actually understand the business. It took years of being around that relationship, who in turn introduced us to other people in the industry. And once we saw families doing that, we were like, oh, this kind of makes sense. Okay, but we didn't have the time, the capital, or the stability to even think about doing that at that time. And so we went from job to job for a long time, a really long time. And part of the reason our struggle, I think, was so long is just, well, one, because I'm stubborn and I don't necessarily always listen to the lessons I'm supposed to learn right away. And so I might have to learn a couple lessons a couple times. But I think that we went from job to job for a long time, but we maintained that relationship. And I think that's another important thing to our story, is that relationships are everything, because you never know who you're going to be able to help and who is going to be able to help you. And not in a manipulative sort of way. I just mean you can be talking and telling somebody your story and it can give them hope to get out of their situation, right? Or you can actually have an opportunity for somebody. And if you start talking about your opportunity, and then all of a sudden somebody who's more successful than you has a bigger opportunity that might tie into yours, you never know unless you're having conversations and start building relationships with people. And so I'm very keyed in on relationships. I think that's huge. So we had this relationship for 20 years. We went back and forth. We had kids around the same time, the same ages, all that kind of stuff. And so we kind of started doing life together. And then eventually, right around when the pandemic hit, is when we launched our business. And we launched it with all 5 of our kids in the business. And it's just taken off like crazy since then. And it's all about relationships, because we have made these relationships, and some of these relationships we've known for almost a lifetime. So
I think that's so important. Relationships, healthy relationships matter.
yeah.
Being surrounded with them, and that's so important. And you never know, like you can speak to somebody, and the thing is, once we gotta, like, when we go into a room, we gotta like look at like who can I make connections with, who do
Right.
I, and not have it about something that we want. It's something like, how can I just share a little bit of my story, and that can
Yeah.
help them. I recently went to an event, and it was a very small event, and I didn't know what to expect, and I only knew two people there, maybe three or four people. But man, what I left with, because I went and talked to different people, was
Yeah.
so amazing. And realizing that one, I've been playing small on a lot of stuff. Like I don't really talk a lot about my childhood or the things that we went, just
Hmm.
being poor. And it's something like, why not? Because it's not to say, and it was just like a lot of things, but you can talk about that because it shows that you went from having nothing to having something
Yeah.
that shows your grit and your grace and your resilience and all the things that
Hmm.
you can persevere, and the lessons learned along the ways has helped us not to do it again, and can tell you like, hey, don't do it this way because let me tell you,
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yes, exactly, right? I once heard that knowledge is knowing what to do, but wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes so that you don't make those mistakes. And so that's yeah, definitely that's a huge thing is that, if you go in with your eyes off yourself, right, into a room and you're looking for a way to serve those people that are in that room, I think that says a ton and it opens up a ton of connections and communication with people.
Yeah. You never know. Like, you never know when you'll need that relationship for something, or, in fact, the other day my daughter needed help with something, and I with the business, and I was like, oh, my friend that works there, and she can let me talk to her. And my friend helped her with everything. And I'm like, it's just, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. She's like, no worries, your family. Because I've known her for so long, and it was like not, it's like it was kind of important, but it was just like the such a give to be such having such giving friends, and just having those relationships.
Yeah,
And it may be somebody you haven't seen in years, but knowing that you can count on them just to ask a simple question, and that's basically what we needed, and it was, so helpful. And I think that's so important. And I love that you just talk about like the cantaloupes thing, but I think it's so adorable. And it's funny because I mean I've met your daughter, and your daughter's
mhm,
amazing, and I've met your husband. I haven't met all the children yet, but it's true because she tells us, yes, it's true. We can't say that.
yeah.
And and it's just seeing the love of your family. You guys do life together, and you have a business together, and all of those things. And I think that that made you so, those relationships, and having it just you and yourselves, or, your close knit family, really
Mhm.
helped. I see it still with my own children. Like we, um, have been so, how do you say, like sometimes we just do life together, like
Yeah,
have made it a bond. And even to this day, everybody will say sometimes like, oh my God, I can't believe you and your kids like still do things together. And like a lot of us in our family are like that. Our kids and us do stuff
yeah,
together. And I think it's because we've had that strong relationship and that strong foundation, which is so important. It's not about what everybody else is doing. It's making sure that your home is centered. Correct.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your goals that you guys want to, I love that, to open up a business
Sure.
in every state.
Yeah, so I always want to give back, right? And so part of what I want to do is I want to be that connector between people in a business and specifically veterans and their families. I have such a soft spot in my heart for that because my husband is a veteran and I was a military spouse. I totally understand the hardship that military families go through. And so, if you're listening, thank you for everything you do, because we wouldn't be able to have a business if it wasn't for you guys out there. And so, I want to be able to give back to them. I want to be able to, when they're done with their time in the military, I want to be able to say, hey, we have a business that might work for you and your family, right? And we want to expand over all 50 states and give veterans a chance to have their own business and have it be their own family operated, legacy business. And so that's kind of what we're looking at doing. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I love that. I love that. When I was practicing reading your bio earlier, because I just wanted to make sure I said everything right, and my husband's like, yes, because he's like, all, because we all love supporting veterans.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you guys do a ton of work. Yeah, which is awesome.
yeah, it's really important. And it's, my husband and I both were not in the military, but being federal employees for many years, but we came from military families. My grandpa his grandpa and his stepdad and stuff. So very
Yeah.
important. And I think that's awesome. So let's talk about speaking on stages.
Okay, sure.
So you talked a little bit, like you've spoke a few times, and what is your goal and how do you want using your story to help others and speaking on stages, and then also learning into more of a coaching women to help them?
Sure. So I think, I didn't even start telling my story until about a year and a half ago, I guess it was. And honestly, because I think a lot of us that go through loss like that, we have shame, right? And you don't want people to know. I was raised, you do not talk about money, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics, right? So you don't want people to know. But what I have found out, I had a very wise woman grab me by the shoulders and say, "You need to tell your story." And she has called me out several times. Mutual friend of ours, and she's called me out where I've had to tell my story in public. And so once I started doing that, I actually realized how valuable it is to have somebody up talking on a stage that's going to make somebody else want to tell and share their story. It's not about my story anymore. It's about getting myself up there so that it can bring out the goodness in other people, right? And so that's my entire goal of speaking. I am starting to speak a lot more. I've been on more podcasts, I've done some webinars, I've been on a stage or two, and I really think that each time I do that, it calls people out from the audience, and they come up to me and they say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I can breathe now because you did that. Now I know I can do that." And so it's really cool to start watching women, women especially, I think men too, but women especially. There's just something about when you can change a mama's heart and get her up there and get her to start telling her story and to start realizing that, hey, there is hope, that you can get out of whatever situation you're into, and you can get back up again no matter what knocks you down. And so I think that's my purpose for speaking, really, is just to let women know that they can do that. And I think that's going forward, that's really about it, is just giving them the tools, coaching them through it, and getting them on the right track again, because everybody, gets knocked down by something, right? I mean, look at the pandemic, that knocked a lot of people down. Look at financial losses, look at physical losses, whatever it is, there's going to be things, because it's life is just life. Sometimes it happens just because, and sometimes it happens because you made a wrong decision, right? We overspent and we overextended when we were young because we were dumb and we just thought we were invincible. Guess what? You're not. But you can turn everything around just by getting back up, stepping one foot at a time, and getting around other people who are successful and who are doing more than you, because they've all done it. So why not follow,
And I think that that's so important. Like, just like what you said is like when you told your story and we started learning, and I had known you for for quite some time. And again, we have a mutual friend and it's really important to join masterminds because you get that
Yes.
closer connection. When you first told your story, I was like, wow, like that's awesome. And that you've been through all that. And even though, like I said earlier, like it's like made me realize that I had hid behind like, not having it all the time or all these things, and it's so important to share that. And but sometimes you still fall back. For me, I still fell back into like hiding a little bit, and I'm like, and then we had heard another speaker speak about how they were born in poverty and all these things, and like we need to start putting that in our LinkedIn, like not to show that, look at me, but to say, I know what it's like to have
Yeah.
nothing and to grow.
Yeah.
And it's so important, and I think that's awesome. And it's like, I was like, told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to start telling my story more. And he's like, at first he was like, why? And then I was like, because I can show people that, you can go from nothing to this, or
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's
And I think it's important too for people to know, the not so fun things, right? Like I remember my bathroom floor moment when I was crying out to God saying, what am I supposed to do? Do I stay married? Do I, what am I supposed to do? And I remember when my son was eating an invisible sandwich because we had to ration top ramen noodles, and he was hungry. And it's like when you're looking at your babies and they're hungry, I get it. I know what that feels like in your gut. I know what it feels like to be bawling on the bathroom floor. And I think it's really important to tell your story because those other women that are out there crying on the bathroom floor right now and whose kids are hungry and they don't know what to do, they don't know that there's a way out. And it's important for us to tell our stories because they can look at you and say, oh my gosh, look at Angelina. Look at what she's doing. She's a coach. She has a podcast. She went to a better job. She was able to quit her other job and go to a better job. All these incredible things that you've done. Look at what you're doing with your husband and helping veterans and everything through the RC cars and all these different things and mental health. And it's like, nobody knows that if we don't open our mouths, right? And then all of a sudden people are like, oh my gosh, she did it. I can do it too. Right. And so I think it's really, really important for us to get out there and actually tell people, hey, you can do this too.
Well, I think it's really important and thank you for all of that. I think it's so important that we just humble ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, what you also, when we have our closed mouth, like I said this, and I know I didn't, this is not my quote. This is, I think, DMX or Jay-Z or somebody, but closed mouths don't get fed.
That's right.
And when we're talking about feeding, it's not just about, it's like we don't know who can help us or who can give us some type of hope or any of these things if we just keep our mouths shut. And then when we keep our mouths shut or we push down those things that we really want to say, but we push them down and push them down and push them down, that causes more stress and all these other things and health issues. Like you talked a little bit about the physical issues, like the health issues in your bio.
Yeah.
You guys have also went through that, and you've done you and your husband together have done a lot of healing work and things like that. And I think that that's so important. I think that you guys that people need to understand that when we say healing and things like that, doesn't mean, we all have to admit some of us are broken, and that's okay. But when we heal, we have to it's healing, not just you're healed and you're done. Like it's surrendering and learning that there's things that you have to get through, but and learning how to use those tools to help you get moving forward and not stuck.
Yeah, it's definitely an ongoing practice, right? We're all practicing because the ing is the action part. I think that's another reason why, our stories aren't about us, right? It's about what someone hears and what they take from it. That's what it's about. It's not about me standing up there saying, hey, I got through this. It's about me standing up there telling you my story and you saying, oh my gosh, I can tell my story now. And when you tell your story, then guess what? If you're telling your story, there might be somebody in that audience that can help you, or there might be somebody that you're helping. And so it's not about your story. It's about you telling your story so that other people can tell theirs. Because nobody will tell theirs unless you start speaking up.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I think that it's just so important to like realize like you can't just also look at somebody and think that they, oh, like I'm in so in awe, look if they have this or that, or you like know where they came from, like know where they, it hasn't always been easy. And I think that's so important. Like, we don't need to judge people just by looking at one picture and saying, oh, this, like, we need to stop judging. I think
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that we learned getting into those rooms is that you put principles on a pedestal, not people, because we're all sinners. We're all going to screw up. We're all going to make mistakes. And I think if you follow success principles or biblical principles or whatever you follow, as long as you're following the principles and not the people, I think you won't be led astray. But if you start putting people on a pedestal, you will be let down. And I've seen a lot of people let down by people. But once they start breaking down that part and just get into the principle part about hard work, great attitude, relationships, those kinds of things, when you start doing that, that's a whole nother thing. And it lifts you above that. And it just helps you do a lot better, right? You're not judging people because you're looking at principles.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I think that's so awesome. So you guys have went through, got a new business. I mean, our successful business. You guys went through everything. And tell me a little bit, like you have your dream house now, right? So tell me
Right.
a little bit about how you love like your animals. I think that's so
Okay.
important.
Yeah, so it was funny because when we were buying this house, we rented for years and years and years. And when we saw this house, my daughter actually found it online and my daughter set up the open house for us to come to. We had no idea. And she's like, hey, we need to go check out this house. And we had talked about what we wanted for years with our kids. So all of our kids knew what we wanted.
Mhm.
She found it. And so she set up the open house and we got here and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the house." Because you walk into our house and you look out over the back and it's only 5 acres. So if you are an acreage land person, yes, we have a yard, not really a farm. I totally get it. But here it's my farm. So we have 5 acres and it's a really cute little farmhouse and then we have an entire huge shop on it and it's got an RV port and it's got like a little pool side apartment kind of thing. And so we saw that and immediately we're like, we can start a business in our house, right? Because we've got the shop. That's going to be our shop. And that's exactly how we started thinking. Everything was viewed through the lens of how can we build a business with our family? How can we make this work? And immediately this entire place kind of fell into our lap. And we're like, this is it. And so we bought this house and we knew we wanted animals. And so we ended up we got chickens first. I thought we were going to start with this is funny because I actually thought smaller than my husband. He totally outthought me on this. I said I wanted chickens and I was thinking 10 or 12 chickens, something like that. Oh no, he went and ordered us like 50 chickens to start. I had
Wow.
never been a chicken farmer, had no clue what I was doing. And I will tell you that a lot of times the best way to start something is you just start. And we just jumped in, right? I started researching, I started figuring it out. And you're just out there with your animals every day and you figure it out. So we had chickens and then we got a cow and she was pregnant. And so now I have 2 cows. Well, I have 3 cows because my one just had her calf. So I've got 3 cows. I've got a whole bunch of chickens and I've got some goats now. And so it's a total dream life for us. That's what we've always wanted. And I see my kids every day at work, all 5 kids. Well, my 4th son, he's at university right now, but he comes home and he works in the business when he's home. So I get to see him pretty much daily. And it's total dream life. And we got this place because we wanted a place where all of the kids would bring their kids back to. And that happens now, right? We saw it well before it happened, but now it actually happens. And it's the best thing is when all my kids come over and it's like, and there's space for them and there's things to do for them, right? And they can go feed the animals with their kids and just all this fun stuff. And it's because we saw it 20 years ago and we talked about it constantly. We had pictures up on our fridge of places like this and we had dreams written out. And that's another thing is you've got to write it out. You've got to know what you want because if you don't, you won't go anywhere. You have to have a destination in mind and you have to just kind of keep going. And it's amazing, study after study after study. If you don't write something down, you will not get it. Right. And also, if you don't have specifically what you want, if you've got a picture on your fridge, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get that exact picture. Right. If you're looking at it every single day and you're thinking about it and talking about it, it's pretty amazing. So definitely write down whatever it is. But that's what we did. And now we've got this great place here and we can run a business out of it. And we've got our farm and my kids all come home, which I love.
I think that's so important. I mean, I know you said 5 acres, but 5 acres is amazing because some of us don't have that. But you started from, at one point you said you guys were living in a hotel. Living in a hotel and, an extended stay hotel. So excited that there was a pool there at that particular hotel. And now here you are, like, this is something like you went, by refining and shining,
Yeah.
and you're, refining, working on the things you needed to work on. You now have this dream home and the dream home didn't just happen overnight. You guys constantly dreamt about it, talked about it, had the vision board.
Yeah.
And like, if it stays in your head, it's dead, right?
Right.
You talked about it, you wrote it, you had goals, you had dreams, you did all of these things, and now you have, and like I love watching your reels or your stories where you're just like out there with the animals or feeding the chickens and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. And so you guys can, if you're listeners listening, and you feel like, oh, that must be nice. Well, no, it wasn't just nice, it was because they did the work. So you gotta,
Yeah.
like, if you want something, get your vision board, get on Canva, make your vision board, do whatever you need to do, print that out so that you can see it. And as a daily reminder, write out those dreams, talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your family, like talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And not just talk about it, do steps each day, do actionable steps that you can get to get that goal. And it'll happen. You just have to put in the work. It's not going to be like it happens overnight. I snap my fingers if you couldn't hear that because I'm a very bad snapper. But it just doesn't happen. You're not going to just wake up one day and you're going to have it all. You have to do the work. And I think that
Right.
that's so important that you guys did the work to get to the life that you have today.
Yeah. You have to now, I heard it described as navigating or floating. And so if you picture yourself on a kayak in a river, if you are just floating, you are taken wherever the river wants to take you, right? But if you are actually navigating that river, you are going to start watching for the rapids and watching for the current, and you're going to go in and out and around different obstacles and things like that. And I think that's a really important thing. And I love what you do because you teach people how to figure out their time and refine their time and their habits so that they can navigate those things a lot better. And I think that that's super, super important is you have to start learning how to navigate instead of float. Because if you just float and let life happen to you, you will not end up where you want to end up. And that's just, I mean, that's just a hard truth. You have to actually start taking control of what you can control and start anticipating and start moving and start taking the action. Like I've heard it millions of times, success shows up in a pair of overalls, work gloves, and work boots, right? Because you have to put your hands and feet to that. You have to get out there and do that work. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. As we wrap up, I would love, I will leave all your links, but I want to, just so people can follow you and all these things. But I just want to give my listeners, I want you to give my listeners one actionable phrase or an action item, something, or even a word of something that they need to start, like a call to action. Like it could be whatever you feel, something that they can start doing today.
Yeah, so I think I challenge a lot of people on podcasts and stuff. I challenge you to go get a nonfiction book on personal development, right? Relationships, communication. It does not matter which one. There are a gazillion awesome books out there. Just go get something that's going to stretch you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And even better, if you have kids, go get them a nonfiction book on the same topics and you guys read it together and have them read it also. And they are not too little to read that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of books that you can get like The Go-Getter or get like Who Moved My Cheese, because kids can understand that stuff too. So that would be my action item, is start reading a lot more, turn off that TV and pour yourself, into your family and start learning together.
I think that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will have all your links on there but as if they're just listening and they don't look at the show notes, what's the best way that they should follow you?
Probably Facebook or Instagram, probably Instagram, Kim_Kinsfather. I'm on Instagram. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I absolutely love talking with you. And leaders or listeners, I mean, if you want to lead your life to the life that you want to lead, you need to follow Kim. Kim, it will show you how, and just their family is amazing. And if you see, you can see it. Like every time I go to an event and Kim's there, we just do a little dancing video. But Kim, his family is amazing, and they've been through the thick and thin, and they can show you that life is good when you actually follow your dreams and do actionable items. So thank you, Kim, so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine.
If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.